Hello, and welcome to Artificial Developer Intelligence, a podcast where three software engineers navigate the ever-changing AI-enabled programming landscape. We are your study buddies who use AI every day at work and sometimes read a few AI papers at night. I am Shimin Zhang, and with me today is my co-host, Dan. He'd rather be working at the bullet farm, Lasky, and our special guest host, returning guest host, Rahul. He is building a Thunderdome for technical writers, one brick at a time. How are you guys doing?
Right.
Hello.
I don't know how to top that intro. So can you explain what a bullet farmer is?
So this is, maybe spoilers, going to be a very Mad Max heavy week. Have either one of you seen the Mad Max films?
Some of them.
The
I've
Tom
seen
Hardy one.
Fury
That's
Road.
more recent. I guess technically I've seen all of them at various points in my life.
Yeah, I've not seen the Mel Gibson ones, but I'm a big fan of Tom Hardy ones.
I lost the whole trivia thing one time because the guy was like, which movie had Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron in it? I said Mad Max, and he wouldn't give me the point because he was like, it's Mad Max Fury Road. You can't just say Mad Max. I'm still mad about it. So
oddly specific.
Yeah.
Was this before or after Mad Max Furiosa came out?
Before. So that was the only recent Mad Max. There wasn't any, other Mad Maxes that you would be talking about. And it's like, which one the other one didn't have Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron in it. So what are you talking about? But he's like, nope, you had to say Fury Road in it. Yeah.
It sounds like he was being a jerk.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Dan, back to your question. The bullet farm is where bullets are made in the Mad Max Fury Road universe. If you recall, in the latest movie, there was a whole scene where they drove a truck into this open mining pit and they were making bullets. And of course, Thunderdome is where the fight happens in Mad Max Thunderdome.
True. Yes, that one I knew, but not bullet farm. In any case, definitely not a movie podcast, although it feels like we could do a pretty good job at it. So we'll see. Maybe wait for a spinoff happening soon to a podcast near you.
All right. So on this week's podcast, we're going to start with the news thread mail, as always. We're going to be talking about some OpenAI and Anthropic news, along with a new model on Hugging Face.
Yep. Followed quickly by the tool shed, where we're going to be talking about some pretty cool new developments in the land of multi-agent coding.
Yep. And then we're going to move on to Technique Corner, where we're going to talk about how the creator of Claude Code uses Claude Code.
And then in post-processing, we're going to chat a little bit about how the RA revolution is here, and hopefully we'll learn what RA actually is as well.
And then I'm going to do a little vibe and tale of my experience using Gastown.
And then Dan will be ranting, and then we'll be looking at 2 minutes to midnight.
Or talk about the AI bubble. That's always fun. All right. Well, let us get started. This week, big kind of OpenAI news has been Sam Altman and OpenAI announcing that they will begin testing ads within ChatGPT in the free tier in the coming weeks. And I'm reading off of the CNBC article about it. The ads will begin to appear at the bottom of the chatbot's answers, and they will be clearly labeled, according to OpenAI. And this is applying to the free and Go users in the US, but the Plus, the Pro, and the Enterprise subscribers will not be seeing the ad. So this is all a part of OpenAI's goal to generate $20 billion in 2026 in order to compensate for their $1.4 trillion of infrastructure deals that they've signed.
$20 billion of ads. That's a lot of banner ads.
Yeah.
I wonder what their impression rate is going to be, cost per impression.
That's exactly what I was going to say too. What is unit economics on that? They also said, didn't they say something about it's going to be, you're not going to get some, impersonal ads. You'll get ads that are useful to you and everything, which is a nice way of saying, we're going to use your data finally, and we're going to do the thing that you do with this, which is ads. At the end of the day, that's how you make money.
Which is why I've been super personally terrified to give any of these frontier companies pretty much anything useful about me for that exact reason. Because it's it's just so easy to build an ad profile off of, particularly when they've set it up to be a chat. So you're just kind of oh yeah, I'll give you all kinds of intimate details about my life, and
yeah,
pretty soon it's the most detailed ad profile ever.
there's probably a service that lets you like take your identity for like each service you use. So somewhere out there, you're a 75-year-old grandma, but you still like playing video games and talking trash.
Or it just
And
it just
whatever you get with
constantly
that.
like sends random questions that like mess up its profile.
Oh man.
Like once a day, it'll like, I don't know, ask it about like how to make beef jerky or something, and then it's like convinced that you're real
Yeah.
into beef jerky.
Or can you help? I'm a 12-year-old. Can you help me with my schoolwork? And the next day, like, hey, I need to write a performance review. And next day, like, some other thing. And they would be like, either this person has multiple personalities or like it's like a whole family using the
Indeterminate
account or
age.
something.
Yeah, I think we talked about this like a couple of episodes ago. There's probably a service out there where you just periodically ask ChatGPT, like, hey, what do I do with $4 million in UST bonds? Like, just to waste the advertisers' dollars. But I think the very first time it recommends something like an athlete's foot cream from like a chat 4 months ago is gonna be when you get seriously freaked out about the privacy implications.
Especially if the chat was like tangentially related, like, should I wear socks to the gym or something like that?
Yeah.
And then it like reasoned about what could happen and then showed you the right. Pretty great. Will they waste imprints on coming up with better ads?
Yeah, and this might step a little bit into the 2 minutes to midnight segment, but I believe Sam Altman a couple of years ago said OpenAI will not have ads and that ads are for the desperate and it's like a last resort. So interesting, this is all happening very quickly.
I mean, Sam also said we'd have adult mode and there's no adult mode, so it's not like you can trust everything he says.
I'm still waiting.
It's not.
We'll put that in your ad profile.
It's funny. I don't know if this is like, at the end of the day, everybody ends up doing some sort of like ads tier where for the longest time, Netflix was talking trash about, ads, who wants ads, and you just pay money and then no ads ever. And then obviously now you have Netflix with ads, Disney with ads, everybody's got their like lower tier ads model. And so there's something to it where people just don't want to pay. You cannot like make people pay whatever to like make your generous profit margins and stuff. And so you have to like find other ways to make up the money. That's my take on it. Especially right now with AI. It is just crazy expensive versus what we're paying.
All right. Moving on. Our next item is the Anthropic Economic Index Report, subtitle Economic Primitives from Anthropic. Continue on with our favorite frontier lab. And this one is from Rahul. Rahul, why don't you tell us a little bit about this report?
Yeah, what they do is, I think this is, I forget, they put out a few of these, like what is the, economic impact according to Claude. Because, this by Anthropic, they only look at Claude data. There were two main things that jumped out to me. One is this concept of augmentation versus automation. And like one, a simple way to look at it is one would be two people or multiple people having a conversation back and forth to get to the right solution. Because sometimes, like, if I start a conversation about something, you have to ask me questions to like get more knowledge on. So like us talking to chatbots would be similar, where like, I would like to build this, and they would ask you 10 more questions before you get to the real solution. And then the other piece was automation, where you're like, I have this already manual thing that I'm doing. For example, like some data entry where you like copy paste things, where you're like manually transforming data in a certain way. And you don't need to do any back and forth. All you do is like, can you take this and you can transfer different way, or like put it in different file format or something would be a simple example. So it was interesting to see that it's about 50-50 split. And then the other thing kind of checks out in that augmentation automation is people using API for automation and then chat for augmentation. Before I move to the other thing, like takeaway I had there was, as different people build these like, AI features and everything, it's a good framework to look at is is this feature for automating something, an existing workflow that people have? Or are we trying to augment something where you would have to do some back and forth? And in some cases, like chat would make sense as an offering. And in other cases, you'd want to do some sort of API first approach or something. So that was a I thought a good framework from that. The other big one that they talked about was upskilling, and I think they said downskilling.
Yeah,
But
descaling, I believe.
Oh yeah, deskilling. And the couple examples they gave were like, if you take the example they gave was a technical writer, where if you take all the research pieces and everything, an AI would be able to do all that faster than any other human. So you take away the more skill intensive parts of the job. And so you would be de-skilling that job to just like, can you make sure, the charts are correct and the like formatting is correct and all those things. So you're not using the like more advanced skills in that job. I don't think Anthropic has, maybe they do something close to Nano Banana, but I've seen a lot of like, you don't even need to worry about creating charts and stuff. You can just use Nano Banana for stuff like that. So there was that piece. And then the other side they talked about was upskilling, where if you work in real estate or something, you can do all this admin work using AI pretty easily, but those like face-to-face negotiations and all those relationship building, all those things you can't really use AI for. And so that actually like, you're the kind of like lower skill stuff is getting automated in that job, and then you're more focused on the higher skill stuff. So it was interesting, and I feel like there are a few like thoughts I had after this. After that, one was um, how much can you continue to keep doing the upskilled part of the job, right? So let's say all the admin stuff has gone away. Your whole day as a real estate person is just talking to people and negotiating. Can you do that day in and day out? Just that
Sustainably, yeah.
sustainably, right? Just that very small slice of work that really needs. And so like that was my one. Like if you all these like AI projections and everything say, oh yeah, jobs might not go away, but there would be some specific things for humans to do, but it would be maybe a narrower set. And as humans, we get bored of anything, regardless of like how much it utilizes our skills and everything. And so like, what does that world look like where even if it's the thing you're most skilled at some point, if that's your only thing you're doing day in and day out because AI is taking care of everything, that just kind of like I don't know how that would go. And I'll say one other thing about the de-skilling part and stop the some of the going back to the technical writer example, I don't think
those war on technical writer continues.
No, my thought more on that was they didn't say it in the report itself, but some of those jobs are not going to get de-skilled. They're actually going to get merged into these other jobs. And it applies to the other one too, the real estate manager one as well, right? So Anthropic is saying, yeah, as a real estate manager, you'll just be negotiating. But if the core of the job ends up being just negotiation, you don't need that many people negotiating. You need more people because you can only have like so many people doing the negotiations. And then also you need to do all the admin work. But if the admin work goes away, you only need to do a certain amount of negotiation across all your different deals that are going on. And so like the number of jobs do come down with both upskilling or de-skilling things. Same with the technical
nuance
writers.
that they're not talking about there is very actually reminds me of software, right? Which is like in real estate, at least, you have like I don't know what the official title is, like associates or something like that, where they're folks that want to learn the ropes and then eventually work their way up to having their own brokerage, right? And a lot of times they're doing that sort of admin work because it's like, okay, well, I'm Fred and I've paid my dues. I've been a realtor for 30 years or whatever. So like, I'm not going to, call inspectors and do all the other kind of crap that has to happen on a, day-to-day basis. But at the same time, people doing that, it's almost like a paid internship, right? They're like learning the ropes from this experienced person. And then like, in theory, they're capable. So it's like, that was upskilling or de-skilling?
The negotiation one was your upskilling. You're learning those things.
And so like in that upskilling scenario, it's kind of similar to like CS where they've gotten rid of a lot of, intro positions or are not hiring for them currently. Like, same thing could happen that happened to software where it's like, there is going to be a talent gap in, 5 to 10 years because
Yeah,
of
yeah,
all the people that did not get trained up that should
yeah,
have been.
I want to offer a counterpoint. I think it is possible that since the role of the job itself would change so much
yep,
that it doesn't even matter that they're not hiring juniors and that doing the conventional quote unquote work today if the juniors of tomorrow would need to acquire a new set of skills. And Rahul, to your point about needing fewer real estate professionals, I think the answer to that would be like, according to this research, they expect GDP to increase by an additional 1 or 2% per year, right? Like that compounds. And so probably the overall business of that firm will increase. And then there will end up being more jobs for
But
everyone, all
isn't
doing negotiation.
that just predicated by population growth? Like a 1 to 2% GDP increase year over year.
1 to 2% additional GDP increase. So on top
so
of,
on top of,
yeah, which I think is like actually a very reasonable outlook. Guys,
yeah.
powerful 1 or 2
but
additional
it's not going to
percentage.
dramatically change the world. Yeah.
Right.
They,
I mean, I guess
they,
1% is significant, but
yeah, and multiple times, I think it was either in this report or in a linked report, they stressed that this is based on the current model, and we're betting that the models are going to keep getting better. So
getting
they're
better.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, so they're almost trying to be like, this is our estimate on the floor of what it could do, up to 2% like GDP growth, additional GDP growth. It was over the next 10 years, like they're assuming that it is like adopted. Across all the US and everything. And so, you can only like guess at those things only so much. But I liked that multiple times they've been like, based on the current model, this is what
Yeah. Well, I mean, so
yeah.
far they're still going up and to the right,
Yeah,
despite the infrastructure required to do so, it's still happening.
yeah.
We'll see.
The
We should make a podcast about that. Oh wait.
There was one other thing they talk about, which is you almost need a higher level of education to be able to get Claude. They say it in different words,
Mhm.
but like my take was to get Claude to do more higher skill tasks. And, and they look at like people in developing countries and everything are just using it for schoolwork and stuff, but not really using it as much in work or in like more higher skills versus in other parts of the world, they are using it for more complicated tasks. And if that trend continues, it would likely this I don't remember if they said this or not, but it would likely increase the gap in productivity and everything. And so it's almost like get ready for a lot of training courses and scams being sold. I'm sure they're already being sold on
Wait, guys, we could be the ones starting a scam. Come on now.
when the Ethan Malik.
Ethan Malik, yeah.
Yeah. He gave Cloud Code a prompt to be like, don't ask me any questions. Just create an app that will make me $1,000 a month. And Cloud Code worked for about like an hour and 14 minutes, I think he said, and created an app that sells prompt packs to people. And he was like, if I didn't have like, ethical concerns about this, I could publish this and probably make $1,000 a month, especially because, he's well known. So he could
Yeah, exactly.
rely on his
Leverage
reputation
your
for that
name.
stuff. So get ready for a lot of prompt packs from people, promising you money.
It's the new
Read the same
Photoshop
post.
rush.
I read the same post and I was gonna give that a shot this weekend. With the power of Gastown. So I'll report
sorry.
back next week. Dang it, you're just outing me. I would be, however, remiss to not bring up this last thing from this article that I really found fascinating. They have a chart in here that is a XY axis chart where the Y axis is effective AI coverage of the task and the X axis is task coverage percentage. And the points on the chart are occupations. So essentially, like, how well can an AI do your task? None of
Yep.
them is perfect at 100%. And how many of your day-to-day tasks can be done by AI? And there are actually jobs that have a higher task coverage and higher effective coverage than software development. Software development is at around 65 task coverage and 55 effective AI coverage. A psychology teacher post-secondary, so otherwise a psychology professor, has an 85, 90% task coverage and a 65% effective AI coverage. So there may be industries that are more impacted by AI than us. Also, clergy is 50-50. I found that to be like my favorite thing.
It's also funny that database architects are higher along the axis than...
Was it in this report, the pastor was like, if I can spend more time with people, then like I'm doing what I'm called to do. So that was their comment on it. So like people are using it for, just like, yeah, I have to do a lot of admin stuff and it's getting in my way, and I want to focus on things that my life's calling is. And so it was interesting like how they looked at it.
Yep. New app idea, AI pastors. Personalized AI pastors. Definitely would not convince you to kill yourself.
Dabbled a little bit, if you'll recall, on our group chat.
Yes.
Where...
We don't have a group chat.
Where I was asking early ChatGPT, I forget which model that was, to give us some inspirational content.
Yes.
That's all.
AI Jesus for the win.
Yeah.
All right. Last news item of the week, have the GLM 4.7 Flash model by ZAI.
Yeah. I have to keep you honest with the open weight models. This, I believe, is a relatively recent release. There's also a non-flash version, which is pretty big, so you'll need some beefy hardware to run it. GLM 3.5 was quite a big revolution when that came out, so it'll be interesting to see if ZAI can hold their sort of place as one of the leading open weights models right now. But yeah, as always, fire up your giant GPUs or systems with a huge amount of fast RAM and check it out.
Thank you for keeping us honest here. This is what I get for deleting a very good article about open weight models for this week. I will add it back for next week. Thank you.
This is your penance. Is I just add random things to the podcast.
All right. Well, let's move on to the tool shed. There is, I guess, nothing else that has caught the software development and also just like it has made into popular culture as a whole than Steve Yates' Gastown.
Can I say something before you go too deep into it? When I first started, so I've been on vacation for a couple of weeks, right? And so I kind of missed the initial like blip of all this happening. So I came back and everyone's talking about it. And I legitimately thought it was like an MMO or something based on the name. I was like, what is Gastown? What is everyone talking about? And then I found out and I'm like, okay, agents, cool. Anyway, sorry. I just had to say that.
Yeah, Gastown, where you grind for tokens and level up.
I mean, it kind of sounds like it, right? It's like some weird Wild West in the future.
Yeah,
where
definitely.
Everyone's vying for fossil fuels or something.
It's really interesting that the tool is named after a name of a settlement in a post-apocalyptic kind of, Wild West world. But I guess that is the AI world that we live in today. Of course, Steve created beads that we all use every day. Rahul, do you guys use beads at all?
I don't think so.
So beads is
you should check it out.
Lightweight SQLite based ticket tracking system. It tracks ticket dependency graphs, individual ticket descriptions, so you can send them off to agents.
For your agent. It's not for you so much. I mean, you can use it too, but it's meant for the agent. And it like works remarkably well. I think we've talked about this in past episodes because really, at least particularly for Claude, I think they have spent a lot of time probably with RL or similar baking the to-do list stuff in there. And so it's sort of like to-do list on steroids because it has dependencies. So it can get much smarter about the order that it does tasks in. And then I think recently, well, not that recently, but prior to even Gastown coming out, he'd been experimenting with like multi-agent support for it too. So you could actually like have a cluster of agents working off the same task list.
Yeah. So yeah, what is Gastown? I think my understanding of Gastown, it is a Kubernetes-like workflow orchestrator for Claude Code. And I think, you can make an argument that Gastown is actually agent independent, but I think it was built, and I think Steve mostly works with Cloud Code. So Cloud Code is kind of the primary agent that it is built from. Gastown was completely vibe coded using beads. The author has not looked at the source code at any point. It is.
This is going to be the future of open source. This is completely vibe coded. I haven't looked at a single line of code. If you find something, PRs are accepted. Just
only vibe coded PRs are accepted. I mean, it depends. There's the opposite is happening in like sort of established like Linux adjacent open source projects where there's actually like been a lot of CLAs and stuff where they're like, you're not allowed to use AI to contribute, but also partially because like that sort of famous OCaml, whatever example where the guy like added an entire new like OS support for it or something like that. I forget what it was, or like compiler for something. Like vibe coded the entire thing and they're like, we're not reviewing this. Like, are you out of your mind?
So yeah, to kind of break things down a little bit, once you have Gastown installed on your computer, there is the town, and that is the HQ. That's the central interface for Gastown. And then each one of your Git repos is a rig, taking the whole analogy from Mad Max, where you are the overseer of the Gastown, and you have polecats, which are one-off agents working on rigs to, refine oil. And there is a mayor agent that is the agent that you mostly talk to, because he is a mayor of the town, but you are the overseer. You get to tell the mayor to get the polecats slung up to do work on rigs, okay? And of course, since this is the Mad Max world, you have convoys, and a convoy is a series of tickets that you can then slung to polecats. One polecat per ticket in the convoy. And if that is not confusing enough, because we have lots of merge conflicts, there are refineries whose job is to manage the merge queue. And as all of us who have used Cloud Code knows, sometimes the agent gets stuck at the beginning. You give it all the context it needs, but it just waits for your command. So there is a daemon called the Deacon from Waterworld. It patrols and nudges each polecat to start working if they haven't started working yet. And lastly, there are dogs. Dogs are MI5 agents who walks around waking the deacon up to prevent the deacon from not nudging the polecats who are working on rigs inside a convoy. All right, so that's very clear and simple and straightforward. I haven't mentioned the crew or boot the dog or the witness, because I don't have a ton of personal experience with it. But I think we're all on the same page now.
This will make for a great board game where you just have so many variables.
It'd be pretty hard to get the IP licensing for it, though, given it's basically Waterworld, Mad Max, and what else?
Slow
but
horses.
He came up with some original characters, I think. So,
I did come across this Gastown Decoded blog post where
someone gave it boring corporate names.
Yes, like manager agent, worker agent, merge agent, fixer agent. And I say screw that, okay? Let's bring some fun back into software development.
Now's the time to have fun. We should...
Yes. And of course, the blog post is filled with AI-generated images of weasels. Maybe they're weasels. Maybe they are cats. But they are clearly not cats.
I know.
They might be seals.
They do look like weasels.
Yeah, cartoon weasels working on beats. And of course, Gastown requires beats, which is a ticketing system to work, right? And like in Kubernetes, mayors and deacons and polecats work through a messaging system. So it's actually a bit like Kubernetes from my limited experience with it.
If you close your eyes and replace Kubernetes with like cars that have spikes all over them.
I just want to say I freaking love the naming convention. I am, as someone who is a big Mad Max fan, but just like let's bring some color back into the enterprise development world, or the non-enterprise, just the programming world. Like, this is great. It's kind of its own like keep away. If you're too much of a suit to like overcome these quirky naming conventions, then like this is not the tool for you.
All right.
Putting my cards out there. What do you guys think?
I'm curious to use it. I have not used it yet. If I'm really honest, I haven't actually done a lot of multi-agent stuff in general because I don't know if it's just the way my brain works or what, but I haven't found the value in it. But I'm also, as we've established, I think multiple times on the podcast, not the type of person to be like, here you go, agent, go work on this for 38 hours and then come back and get a finished piece of software. More the like, I have an idea, I'll let it run for a bit, but then I need to make sure that it's something that I could maintain over time. So that's where the hand-holding comes in.
I think my big worry is you want a fast feedback loop. And so, this would help if like we know here's the 5 or 6 features we need, and it would have taken otherwise a week, 2 weeks, whatever, like however long to build it, but you can just, have at it for hours and hours until you meet the criteria. The trade-off there is you might get something with a ton of technical debt out of the box because it just like tried to solve the problem was the end goal, especially if there's no um, checkpoints or it's not, asking you for anything. It's just like, you didn't tell me about the finer details because anytime we work with like other people, they're always digging into, sure, but what does this interaction look like? But if you don't like mention any of that, you just tell the agents like, don't ask me any questions, you go figure that out. They're gonna make assumptions and we might not like those assumptions. So I could see it going either way, but seems like a fun thing to try out.
The fun part about tech debt, though, Rahul, is that you have to read the code to know that you have it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Or you spin up another agent to be like, the last guy really messed this one up. So if you could clean this one up, please.
There's this paragraph I really like here. Working in Gastown can be chaotic and sloppy, which is how it got its name. Some bugs get fixed 2 or 3 times and someone has to pick the winner. Other fixes get lost. Designs go missing and need to be redone. It doesn't matter because you're churning forward relentlessly on huge piles of work. So you may not be 100% efficient, but you are flying. And I think that is the philosophy of Gastown. And I think if this is not the future, that it could be a glimpse at one possible futures, which is another reason why I'm really excited about Gastown. I've drank the gas, I've guzzled all the, like, witness me.
Witness him.
The chrome,
He's going to Valhalla.
Yes. I'm ready to be a war boy.
There is, wasn't there, not like exactly this, but there was that whole like Ralph is another big meme these days, and you run your agents. To simplify, if you're running your agent in a for loop and you've just defined like, while this condition is not met, just keep trying until this condition is met. And so you're defining the end criteria and let it just like keep trying for hours and hours. And there's, like you said, it's gonna happen where you're flying, even if like you're not. You're gonna get a huge pile of work, like you said, and it might not be 100% what you wanted, but you're gonna get it much faster than you otherwise would have.
Yeah. We'll probably share a little more about my experience with Gastown in the Vibe and Tail section. Let's move on to Technique Corner, where we have a series of tweets by Boris, one of the creators of Claude Code, talking about his AI or Claude Code setup. Boris does not have a Gastown-like setup where he's just swarming with agents, never checking the code. Thankfully, Claude Code is still built with human eyes reading the PRs. But kind of to summarize it, he runs up to 5 agents in different Claude Code repos using branch-based development. So we have 5 clones of the repo running 1 Claude Code agent each. He also has up to another 5 agents running in the web GUI version of Claude Code, working on Claude Code. Ooh, that's a lot of Claude Codes in a sandbox environment. And then he has got a couple of sub-agents for quality control. These are code simplifying agents that he uses with hooks for formatting code and using additional tasks to verify the work is completed using a background agent. So a little bit like a Ralph Wiggum plugin-isk, workflow, but still with human oversight. And I think through this, they are shipping around 50 to 100 PRs per person around per week, which is a very high velocity, I would say, especially for a piece of software that's this popular. And lastly, every team has its own Claude.markdown. So a team can share the context and then make modifications as needed. Yeah, and they all use Opus 4.5. So now the Sonnet stuff. That one I agree with. I don't find myself reaching for the lower power agents because it's not my money at the end of the day.
Yeah, we have Haiku and Opus at work, and the number of times I've run something on Haiku is a donut. Actually, that's not true. I ran it exactly once, and it was to have it write a haiku about haikus to post in a Slack.
That's right. I think, this seems like a in between the full swarm orchestration workflow and then just like a single code terminal at a time, which is how I do work most of the time at work. But there's probably a lot of room for improvement in my personal experience. I'm gonna try and go for more agents. Actually, I've been a little bit inspired by this to use a few more agents in parallel. What do you guys think?
Infecting the rest of your life.
I think the biggest difference between Gastown and this kind of approach is,
Chaos
with multiple
versus
agents.
hands-on.
Yeah, I'm still reading through the PR line by line by line. So
Yeah.
or the MR. So I'm not just shipping that away and throwing it downstream. So
one thing I have been using the web sandbox Claude code for, like app based, is managing my config for my home lab. Like I've found that pretty neat. Like, oh, I want, I'm out and about and I want something new. I just ask Claude to spin up a Docker image for me and everything, and then boom, it appears on my network and I can access it, which is pretty handy.
Yeah, it does such a good job of doing boilerplate stuff.
Right. But I'm still not, like, even in that context, not running, 5 Claudes or anything. Maybe I'm not thinking about work the right way. I have old-fashioned attention models.
Which one is this? Let me find it. Number 17, it says, do you go through your backlog and load each one into Cloud Code plan mode? My question is more about how do you think about development now and steer the system? And he said, mostly I curate a bit, and that was interesting to me because that he's still like manually first verifying, is this the right thing to build? Which I think becomes if building is cheap, what to build is that's the call you have to make so that you're not like building a monster product that does everything that everybody asked for. So it's interesting to see what he's still manually choosing to spend his time on with all these superpowers and more at his fingers.
The other thing that's interesting about this that's missing is how big are these pull requests too? Like if he's shipping hundreds, but are they, I've talked about before, I have a very strong opinion about how big a pull request should be, regardless of who authored it. I don't care if you use Claude or, whatever, it's still, at least for the time being, mostly humans reviewing the code. And as such, like the amount and the sort of thematic grouping of the stuff that you're touching is really important.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to know, are these huge? Are they small? I bet they're smaller. And I wonder if that's also how you can keep like 5 or 6 of these things rolling, is like by the time one of them's running the tests, another one is, asking you questions about the ticket or whatever. The third one's somewhere in the middle.
Have this kind of like, I have one question about this. Over time, do you see PRs getting larger or smaller or the same, like AI or not? Or what's your experience been like, let's say over the past 5 years, and as you review PRs every day, which way are they trending?
I mean, it's a team dynamic, right? And so like, I think that depends heavily on team culture. And that's something I always try to influence a lot. One of the things I've definitely seen an impact from AI trending towards the larger side, and also seen quite a bit of like interpersonal conflict caused by that. For people that are sort of, even more purist than I am about like your PR
Keep your
sizes
PR
and
small.
stuff. Yeah, like the first time someone vibe coded an entire epic instead of one ticket and then sent one PR for it, there was There was some commentary that went back and forth.
Yeah, you can probably in your Claude MD file, I think you should be able to state like, keep them this small and as long as like logically separated, and if it grows too big, like split it into 2 PRs or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, logically separated and like thematically related,
Yeah, it is interesting that the reason why I asked was because our attention spans are getting shorter, but our PRs are getting larger. And it's like that world ain't gonna be good because, everybody wants to watch a TikTok video and read a tweet, and you cannot expect them to review your, thousands of lines of code and expect them to actually catch anything.
Definitely a recipe for quality.
Yeah.
All right. Next item on the list, we're moving on to post-processing, where we talk about a post that really influenced us or we found to be really interesting this week. This week's post is
interesting.
Brought by Rahul, titled "The AI Revolution is Here. Will the economy survive the transition?" You sent this to me along with some additional attacks to tech writers.
No, I did not. Yeah.
It was really cool getting that. Just kidding.
I was just telling Shimin before this podcast, my name literally translates to one of the meanings as efficient. And so I am just doing what my name says. I'm trying to make everything efficient around me.
How do you feel about junior developers?
So what post were you talking about, Shimin?
The Substack, the AI revolution is here. So the post is a conversation between 4 very heavyweights, I think, in the AI world. Michael Burry of Big Short fame, who thinks that we're in the AI bubble. Dwarkesh Patel of the podcast of the same name that we, I think, all listen to. Patrick McKenzie, or Patio11, everyone's favorite Hacker News commenter. And Jack Clark, one of the co-founders of Anthropic. Yeah, throughout the post, I felt almost like Michael Burry is speaking for us, the common people, almost, of like, I'll quote you a few things and then you'll know what I'm talking about. Like he's skeptical about this, and he stated it in different places. And here's a couple of things that he says in the article. One is, at the end of the day, AI has to be purchased by someone. Someone out there pays for a good or service. That is GDP. And that spending grows at GDP rates, 2 to 4%, with perhaps some uplift from companies with pricing power, which doesn't seem likely in the future of AI. I mean, economies don't have magically expanding pies. They have arithmetically constrained pies, nothing fancy. Entire software pie is less than $1 trillion. This is why I keep going back to the infrastructure to application ratio. NVIDIA selling $400 billion of chips for less than $100 billion in end user AI product revenue. One other thing I'll quote from Michael that really stood out to me was he talks about, there you go. He talks about like value accrues historically in all industries to those with a durable competitive advantage, manifesting as either pricing power or an untouchable cost or distribution advantage. It's not clear that the spending here will lead to that. Warren Buffett owned a department store in the 60s when the department store across the street put an escalator and he had to put the escalator in too. In the end, neither benefited from that expensive project, and that is how most AI implementation will play out. This is why trillions of dollars spending with no clear path to utilization by the real economy is so concerning. Most will not benefit because their competitors will benefit to the same extent, and neither will have a competitive advantage because of it. So, when we talk about like us, the common people, end up picking the model, like it's so easy to switch between models, and the models are available to everybody, and they are pretty close to each other. There's, Cloud Code is more prominent in coding because of, not necessarily because like the model being so much better, but because the experience that they built around it, and like any difference that there is in the models, the other ones would catch up. And so his whole point is like, if all of this gets competed away and if everybody has access to the same thing, how do you actually build a sustainable competitive advantage against the, hundreds of other companies doing the same thing, especially in today's world where you can just, as Shimin was saying earlier,
you use Gastown. You just go like, here's a website that is doing this stuff and making millions of dollars. Spin me up a clone. The competition is more in those like, you have to go figure out how to build those relationships and everything. But just being able to compete on features or anything like that is not going to be sufficient. So he's rightfully questioning where the money is going to, or where the returns are going to come from.
Escalator quote really resonated with me too. And I thought about it in the context of sort of like the Logitech thing that came out, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, where they were like shoving AI into your mouse drivers. And you're like, why? But someone else put it, or maybe Logitech was the department store putting in the escalator. And so like, pretty soon everybody has to do it regardless of whether it's wanted or needed.
Yeah.
Definitely in the throw it at the wall and see what sticks phase.
The quote that I highlighted is, quote, every future StarCraft AI has already read The Art of War in the original Chinese, unless its designers assess that it makes it worse at defending against Zerg rushes. And this is why Patio 11, I'm the biggest fan of him. I think the fact that like AI has a pretty decent baseline level of cognition already, and we're probably only going to get better from here on. Kind of taking the financial side of things away is something not to be underestimated. As jagged as the intelligence of AI might be, there's significant overlap between what an AI can do and what an average human can do. And keynote on the average. So we may not make money, but I think productivity growth is almost inevitable at this point. That's all I got.
I see.
We may not make money, but we will make Gastown.
It may not.
How do you square the two though? Like productivity would grow, but people would lose money. And in the end, most of the people who are getting this money or investing it either won't exist or would take large losses if the world turns out to be how like Michael sees it.
Right, like the quality of life of everyone would increase because we'll be able to get a lot more stuff.
Make use of that we see money,
Yeah, money is more about how the resource gets distributed. I'm just saying it's going to lead to significant increase in the baseline quality of life. And then the distribution of those resources, well, that's a different question.
Yeah.
But the other thing that they went into on this that I think is relevant to that is one of the questions was, do AI tools actually improve productivity? Right. So there was, of course, that study that we've referenced a couple times on the podcast about like self-reported productivity gains from open source developers working in code bases they already knew. And then the actual productivity was essentially the opposite of their gains. And I thought it was particularly fascinating to see Jack's response to that, where he just straight up admits like, yeah, we don't really know, and this is like someone who's a co-founder of Anthropic. But I also think it's fascinating because it's like Anthropic is in a great position to start generating that data from their own employees. But it's also a problem that I've been interested in for a long time is like, people always try to measure developer productivity, and it's such a hard thing to do because it's like, what do you do? Measure the amount of time? Like lines of code is a terrible proxy generally because like all proxies are gameable, right?
And then, now with AI, you can write as many lines of code as you'd like and some more.
Exactly. And then the other one is like, how much time it took you to write like an individual function or something like that too. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's a weird thing where we've never really been able to answer the baseline question about efficiency for software developers. So then how are we going to answer that question in the context of agentic coding as well, right? Doesn't make it any easier, I don't think, especially for like I guess arguably an apples to oranges comparison between the two.
It's also if you take away the AI helps resolve some bottlenecks, but whatever is left has to be done by humans because only they can do it and humans can't move as fast as AI, so they're the bottleneck. There's just going to be immense pressure to be like, AI has been waiting on you for days. What are you doing? Right. And so like one of the productivity measures is going to be like, how long did you make our fellow agent wait? And, why aren't you doing your part? It's blocked on you. So
I mean, from my perspective, though, that's not that much different than, you're a manager, right? So you deal with the same thing with human agents in the sense that like attention is what matters for you.
Yeah.
You have a finite amount of attention. Your team needs it in a specific place.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of up to you to decide what is the most important. So if that LLM was waiting 12 days, great. Maybe it wasn't the most important thing, you know?
Yeah, I guess I think I see that. I think one difference there is before we were all working at human speed, right? So even if like regardless of how many reports you had or anything, everybody else was also working at human speed, so you could at least in some sense catch up and be like, okay, you work with humans 1 to 3 and you like unblock them and your other reports are rating, but like by the time you do that, other things happen. But if all your quote unquote reports, but in this case, agents are so fast that like every day you wake up and there's like 20, virtual faces staring at you, be like, are you gonna, like, I need this from you. There's just, you become the bottleneck to that. And then you have to like figure out how do you define productivity in that
I'm
world.
pretty sure that's also the argument for 996.
Oh, let's move on to Vibe Intel, where I talk about my experience with Gastown. So I gave it a shot this weekend. I have been working on my own kind of orchestration workflow, seeing what's the power of basically orchestrating various agents with different prompts to help me read papers. Right, like I hate reading machine learning papers. I don't hate them, but they could be difficult to read and convoluted. I read them, but it would be kind of cool if there's like a learning tool. There's a way to transform PDFs into web apps for learning purposes. And it seems like something that AI is well suited to do. Well, while I was working on that, I came across Gastown. So I took some of my existing beat work tasks and I just kicked them off in Gastown. And I sent you all the link for the thing that I ended up creating. It's Unreasonable RNN at Vercel.app. So it's an entire learning course based on Herbathy's The Unreasonable Effectiveness of RNNs, which is one of Ela Stoskiva's 30 papers to read list. And it's one of my personal pet peeves is I really like it when formulas are color-coded, mathematical formulas, so you can kind of pick apart each part of it with like a nice little reference table underneath so you don't lose track of what is what while you're going through a relatively dense formula. I haven't actually gone through the entire app and compared it to the original blog post to see, if there are any errors, but I would say Gastown did a pretty reasonable job. I only really ran into one major hiccup, which was the LaTeX color coding of the formulas were not correct. And then I created new beat tickets, slung it over to a Convoy to fix. And after the polecats finished working, it made everything worse. So I had to actually go back to Cloud Code and manually use Cloud Code to fix it. But I see the power of this particular orchestration flow. Like this would have taken me a couple of months. And it's too large to fit in the context of a single agent, right? Even with something like Ralph Wiggin, the lesson plan I ended up creating for this course was too big to be sent to Cloud Code, period. Like it had gotten that complicated. So it was really nice to be able to break the large lesson plan into individual beats and then have the workers kind of swarm on the tickets. There were a couple of bottlenecks as per usual. You need to set up the infrastructure. You need to set up individual like quiz modules, etc., to make them more reusable. So those were kind of done sequentially. But they could be set up before the modules were created, but they can all be done at the same time. So overall, I thought it was relatively pleasant to work with, output withstanding.
This can be your $1,000 a month passive income project.
This is not going to be my $1,000 a month passive income project. But
no,
I
can
thought,
throw a Stripe link in there and good to go.
Well, we'll talk about that. Monetization is step 3 after the question mark.
I see.
One thing that the Gastown blog post mentioned was like he had different levels of AI usage.
Yeah.
And it was like level 1 IDE, level 2 IDE with Copilot. And then you get like to like level 6 Cloud Code, level 7, you're juggling multiple Cloud Code terminals. And then level, like before you are juggling five plus terminal agents, at the same time, he recommends you to not use Gastown. And I was definitely not at that stage yet. So I'm sure there are lots of tricks and tips that I'm missing from doing this work. But
how many
as
agents did this use?
You have again, you have your mayor, you have your deacon, you have your dog, and you have like 4 agents at once. So I was using up to like 6, 7 agents at once, and I had to upgrade my Anthropic plan to
that was going to be my next question.
To max. $20 a month is not going to cut it. I believe the blog post mentioned don't use it if money is an issue. So I'm doing it for the content, guys.
Oh, goodness.
And it
we accept donations at the following Bitcoin address.
Yes, exactly. I need to do a GoFundMe just to keep on playing with it. But I thought this was
it looks good.
This is a interesting POC.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I want to play with it now. Like your app, not Gastown. Like it looks pretty neat.
It also, there are these like internal or not internal admin services that people sell of like, here's the certification training you need to take. And apparently these are like, third party services that you buy to just like create your certification module on top of it. And when I see what you put together and what you're saying, we could just create our own, and you like don't have to, that's another thing you just don't need to buy anymore. It's just certifications. You're going to have the latest context for the service world. And so like, seems like you're getting rid of those jobs, Shimin. That's what I'm seeing here.
I am in the forefront of text is a terrible medium for learning, and anything we can do, whether it's examples or images or whatnot, is a huge improvement. So, and as a front end guy,
Rahul agrees with you. That's why he wants to get rid of technical writers.
Only technical quiz creators from now on.
What is the best medium for learning if not text?
I think it should be multimedia. Like there are some things that you'll only be able to learn if you're doing it. Like learning how to serve in tennis via text is a terrible idea. Videos are a little better, and holding is best with feedback. So
I see.
There's a whole field of learning design. I'm trying to incorporate some of those into this workflow. I'll probably open source it at some point if I get to a point that or become a certificate mill. I mean, those are choice A and choice B. So,
are you going to read the code before you open source it, or just
the workflow and the prompts?
Just Gastown it out there.
Yeah, just like the things I do with Gastown for turning any paper into something that I can take a quiz with. All right, so that's my experience. I'll send updates as I learn more. But let's move on to everyone's.
Dan doesn't have a rant this week, so can I take it? This reminds me of one. I'll take 2 minutes.
Oh, let's do it.
Rahul's rants?
Okay. So this whole you talking about reading papers and how hard they are, or at least, as soon as you mentioned that, I was like, why do academics, for the life of me, not speak plain English and just be like, guys, we did the thing. And we're not going to use $100 words for it. We this is the experiment we ran and these were the results. And I feel like I've met a lot of smart people who just cannot communicate their ideas clearly, and the world would be much better off if they could. So one benefit of AI is I know this person's smart. They don't know how to communicate these things. Can you translate what they're saying to plain English to me? And instead of them using 20 sentences to say, can you use 2 sentences to me? And I feel like that's one of the powers of AI. A good example is a lot of you see professors in college and stuff, which is we know you've spent your whole life on this, but you can't communicate this at all. Please, go learn how to communicate your ideas. And now you don't need to. You can just be I'm going to take this professor's book or lecture or whatever and translate it to a better medium and rephrase those things and learn of that. So wouldn't have been possible before.
I actually do have a small rant though too.
The rant off.
Do it, and then you can. Okay, so
let's do it.
And this one's 100% AI related too, which is, do you know the Whisper model for doing voice to text essentially?
Yeah.
I've been getting interested in it recently, and the number of products that charge you a subscription to run Whisper model locally on your device is too damn high. It's pretty wild. Thankfully, there's been a couple of recent like open source entrants that essentially just like run that, or like there's an NVIDIA one recently that's pretty solid. Either are fixed costs or are fully open source, and I'm like, okay, that makes a lot more sense to me. But like, there's definitely like a large swath of subscription products out there. I'm like, maybe they're running it on their stuff and just streaming the audio, but I don't know.
I doubt it. Let me know what you end up going
Yeah.
with. I'll be interested.
I'm currently playing around with Voice Inc., which is an open source one, and it's been okay. Like on iOS, it's a little awkward because you have to run the app and it essentially connects the app in the background to the keyboard, like the quote unquote keyboard. But
Interesting.
like most of the other ones, it does do the thing that's really handy, which is it takes the Whisper model and then runs that through like another LLM with a prompt of like clean up all the ums and stuff like that. And then at least on VoiceInc, you can like customize that prompt too. So you can have different like editing personas kind of as well.
So
which
you
is
can do
kinda
like
cool.
a Obama's anger translator thing.
I guess you
for-
could. I haven't tried that one.
and also, back to Rahul's rant about
Could really ramp up
translations.
the rant section here.
Shout out Keegan Michael Key. He'll be on the next episode.
I was just gonna say, Rahul, you went after the technical writers, you've defeated them, you sent them to the Thunderdome, and now you're coming after professors. This is a good new segment. Like, who are you gonna come after next? But that being
We've
said,
got Dan's
let
rants
us.
and Rahul's like ripping. I don't know. We need a better alliteration.
It's okay. I'm
Better
okay with
segment.
you guys not doing that.
Rahul's rampage. Yes, we did it.
I love it. Rahul's rampage. Come
Rahul
back next
decides
week.
what sectors of industry or entire jobs need to be cut to satisfy his ever-growing need for tokens.
All right.
So in the 50s, there was this thing called the atomic clock, not to be confused with the very precise timekeeper that just recently ran out of battery because of a windstorm in Colorado. And what they would do was periodically a bunch of really smart scientists would get together and decide how close the hands should be to midnight. And that was when the atomic exchange was supposed to occur. So what we've done is decided to take the same clock and format it so that when the hands strike midnight exactly, the AI bubble is bursting. So today we're going to take a look at 3 articles and kind of give you a glimpse of where we're at in the AI bubble.
All right. First
good?
one.
Did you like
That's
that
great. As always. I should just do it every time. Oh, you just forgot the song. But
You're right.
our very first article here is from Jeffrey Huntley, the creator of the Ralph Wiggum plugin for Claude Code that was just mentioned. Basically, both Jeffrey and Steve have jumped on this new crypto investment scheme, I want to say, some sort of an NFT gas thing where users buy Solana tokens for these open source creators. And this is titled 2 AI Researchers Are Now Funded by Solana. And the idea is you buy tokens in these open source projects, and if more people buy them, the creators gets a cut, essentially. So we're seeing this convergence between serious AI open source creators and NFT crypto. I'm not gonna say pump and dump, but it's borderline potentially. So that seems bubbly.
And
to me.
also, it's like that was the previous sort of bubble, GPU bubble. I don't know how to describe it. So
The bubbles are
fact that
merging.
worlds colliding, yeah, that's fun.
That's a little worrisome to me. The second article we have here is from the Register, titled "A Majority CEOs Report Zero Payoff from AI Splurge," and this is according to a PwC report where something like 54% of all CEOs have concluded that their AI investment in the last year has not resulted in either cost cutting or revenue increase. That being said, like 20% have seen one or the other. So just further proof that AI adoption has not been keeping up with the infrastructure spending. And this is a survey of 4,500 business leaders.
It's interesting because I wonder if like the cost offsetting they're talking about is like the deal that they're making for whatever inference provider they're associating the company with. And then that's essentially offsetting whatever productivity gain it got. Or if, I don't know, they don't go into enough detail to really know if that's the case, but it's interesting.
I think the part of it I also question is how are you actually deploying AI in your company and what is your end goal, right? Because sometimes you can just badly implement something and be like, yeah, AI didn't do anything. And it's like, well, maybe because you didn't have clear goals in mind to begin with. Also, like if you're trying to just say, today this job does these 10 things and I'm now going to just say, here's a ChatGPT subscription or whatever. And now you have to like somehow, have better productivity or something. It doesn't solve for like the fundamental workflow has to change with AI. Because if you're just going to be like copy paste things, do all these different things, it's not going to do as much of make as much of a difference and you'll purely see it as a cost. But if you can look at like in a world where assuming you have all these things that are true because of AI, how do I reimagine this whole workflow of this specific job or this whole like department or across departments, or how would you run a project differently? And so like, things like Gastown and all that is a much better example than what we see here because we just don't have enough detail and like show us the, finer details of like, here's the specific things we did and they didn't work out. Because otherwise, like, if people are just getting pressure on like, well, AI is the latest hype, please try and add it. And they go like, check the box. I, bought the subscription and it didn't do anything. Then obviously you're going to see news like that. So I think we need similar to our Anthropic Economic Index report or something much more like fine-grained data underneath of like, here are the different things we looked at and specific things versus just the headline of like, majority of people are not doing it.
You're such an optimist, Rahul.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we get to do this every day. So I just
That's true.
question is it more for the headline? And quoted Michael Berry a few minutes ago, but from like that perspective makes sense to me. This one doesn't. There's something else that, either to like make the just headline catchier and more like for the likes and views and whatever. Would like this article to be 10 times longer and really go in details. And
Well,
then we should look at it.
Speaking of catchy headlines and lengthy articles, boy, do I have one for you, which is entitled AI Companies Will Fail. We Can Salvage Something from the Wreckage. It's in The Guardian, but it's worth noting that this is by Cory Doctorow, who I believe coined the term enshittification. So he has kind of a vested agenda here. But the piece that I thought was interesting, two things really. One is that he agrees with the premise of us being in a bubble, because I think in some cases we're still sort of talking about whether or not that's true. And then the second thing is something that I've kind of talked about before, which is that like something's going to stick out of this, right? Regardless of what happens in the bubble. But the part that I thought was funny was that his takeaway was there'll be a lot of cheap GPUs for regular science after this. So, I guess he's kind of an optimist too in his own way. But there's a lot of stuff that I don't think is worth covering in this segment but it is a rather interesting read where he goes into like who's really profiting from the AI boom. And it talks about this concept of like a reverse centaur, which is like, if centaur is a augmented human that's assisted by AI, reverse centaur is you're assisting the AI to do something that someone else may want to be done. So interesting points worth looking at, in my opinion, just to sort of like understand that opinion in general. But all of that said, where do you fine gentlemen think we are in terms of moving some clock hands around?
So we were at 2 minutes last week.
The eponymous 2 minutes to midnight.
Yeah, I think I feel pretty neutral. I think we can leave at 2 minutes, or we can just roll 1d6 and see where it lands.
Yeah, well, 2 sounds fine to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I like to go back and forth based on the sort of amount and quality of the signal that we're getting, and I think that we're still kind of in two things. We're in the post-holiday news lull, and so amount is pretty low. And I would also argue the quality of what we're getting about what's going on is pretty low with these articles. So I'm fine leaving it how it is as well. But very curious to continue monitoring as always. Not because our livelihoods are intertwined or anything, just because see what happens.
The only thing that gives me pause is crypto has entered the chat with the whole first article you were talking about. I'm like, I don't know,
But it is just like, open source folks working on tooling. If it was a frontier company doing that, then I would be a little bit more scared. But we haven't heard very much about WorldCoin in a while.
You're right.
No, we haven't. So let's hope it keeps it that way.
Yeah.
So we can stick to 2 minutes.
Focus on making adult mode happen and not WorldCoin, Sam. Come on.
Well, once adult mode comes out, I'm gonna move the clock back at least 45 seconds. I'm not gonna want to, anyways.
Yeah, we'll go with 2 minutes.
All right. Well, and that's the show. So thanks for joining us for the study session this week. If you like the show, if you learned something new, please share the show with a friend. You can also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps people to discover the show, and we would really appreciate it. If you have a segment idea, a question for us, or a topic you want us to cover, shoot us an email at humans@adipod.ai. We love to hear from you. You can find the full show notes, transcripts, and everything else mentioned today at www.adipod.ai. Thanks again for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Adios.
Thanks, everybody.
See you all.